Hello, I'm Andrea Gabriel. Welcome to Overall Interviews, where I talk with some of the fascinating people I have the privilege to meet in the publishing industry. Today, I'm talking with author Marian Exall, whose sixth novel, Loners, is being published by the Wild Rose Press. Marian lives in Bellingham, Washington, and came to writing after a career as an employment lawyer. In just over a decade, she has built an impressive body of work that spans both mystery and historical fiction. Her Sarah McKinney Mystery Series earned two Clue Awards, and her World War II novel, Daughters of Riga, won first place in the CIBA Hemingway Awards for 20th Century Wartime Fiction. Loners is her second Pacific Northwest mystery, introducing Detective Christine McQuarrie, a stubborn investigator who refuses to accept that a dead woman, who turns out to be her doppelganger, committed suicide. Marian, welcome.
Oh, hi, Andrea. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. Boy, that was a lot of awards to read out. I got a lot of reading. Well, first, let's talk about the book Loners. That's an unusual premise, the body as a doppelganger. What gave you I'm sorry, I should back up, the body of the deceased as sort of a doppelganger for the detective. So what gave you the
Yeah.
idea of the story?
Well, I the first chapter was actually an entry in a writing competition. They gave you a selection of first lines of poems and last lines of poems and said, fill in the gap with 2,500 words in whatever genre you like. And of course, I wrote mystery because that's my sort of comfortable place. And the first line, the poem I chose, of the selection they gave you, was an A.A. Milne poem. He's the author of the Winnie the Pooh series, as you know. And the first line was, John had great big rubber boots on. And the last line was, and that is that, said John. So it was a children's poem. And I filled it in with dead bodies and blood. So John is the medical examiner wearing a blood-spattered rubber apron and great big rubber boots. And then I developed this detective, and I really liked the character. The entry did not win the win the award in the writing competition, but I so much liked the character that I had kind of crafted just in those few words that I thought I can make something of this. So I made it into a novel. Well, it sounds easy, but it took a bit longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's
John and
the
his
cover,
big
by the
boots.
way.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So John and his big boots is yeah, definitely a long way from Winnie the Pooh. Uh,
Yes.
it's fascinating as a writer. Sometimes I'm curious. It sounds like that constraint of writing something that you would normally never write. Sometimes those constraints are what really push us creatively. I mean, I'm curious if you found that to be true as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's two kind of constraints in my writing life that I love and that motivate me and hold me accountable. One is my critique group. We meet every 2 weeks, and a week before the meeting, we submit what we want reviewed. And I have learnt so much, not just from their feedback on my work, but on reviewing their work. And these are writers who do memoir and creative nonfiction as well as fiction. And that 2 week like cycle has really kept me moving forward in a book, even through, the muddy middle. I gotta write a chapter because the critique group worked it. And the other constraint I'm in the middle of right now is November is NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. And the Red Wheelbarrow Writers, and you are an honorary member if you're not already receiving all the information, does a collaborative novel. And I have been writing the first and last chapter for the last few years, it's a real exercise because you've got to keep up with all the intervening chapters that are contributed by other writers. And sometimes it goes off in left field. But keeping up with that and then crafting a last chapter to kind of wrap it up is it's fun, but it's challenging too. And I like that challenge.
Wow, that is quite a challenge. Now, I'm thinking the first chapter, that's probably cake, but the
Yeah.
last chapter,
Yeah.
I participated 1, if not 2 years. And for those who are listening, this is a round robin novel. Basically, each writer writes the next chapter in line, and then it will be, it sounds like Marian's job to wrap it up at the final stage. And I don't know how you do it because it gets wild.
Well, wait and see. I may not be able to.
Uh, okay, well, circling back to loners, I'm curious about how was it for you? Obviously, and you've done this before, writing a police procedural because I love mysteries. I'm in fact, I probably know more about the British police departments than American police departments because
Yeah.
we are constantly in British crime. How is it for you writing police procedural? How do you go about understanding the way that police departments work? Because that's always
Well, the
held me
same
up.
way as you do. Reading, I read an awful lot of, yes, mostly British, but some American ones too, in the mystery and police um, field. And I also watch way too much TV. BritBox is like my go-to source. So if they got it wrong, I got it wrong. I have not served as a police officer, and I have not really, got that background. So I'm not, I'm not convinced that everything I put in there is absolutely accurate. But maybe in some small police department somewhere it is, how they do it. Who knows?
Well, yes, in
I'm
your
more interested in the characters than the procedures. So, and I've made Christine deliberately a bit of a rebel who doesn't take to authority and doesn't follow rules. So if she breaks the rules, you know, I won't say she's forgiven, but that's part of the story.
well, you've given me a perfect segue into my next question. As a writer, I mean, I know we all know that characters tend to be sort of broken off little bits of ourselves, and I'm curious
Uh,
in which way Christine was easy to create because she was familiar to you, and in which ways was she a bit of a stretch?
I would not say that I am her. I am far more like Sarah McKinney in the first three mysteries that I wrote. I don't think I'm like Christine at all. Maybe other people would disagree, but I think writing her is kind of a relief. You write the opposite, kind of maybe your dream life, but not who you are. Um, Sarah McKinney was an ex-lawyer or a lawyer. She lived in Atlanta, which is where I lived for 29 years. There were lots of familiar things about her and her attitude to the law, I should also say, um, that I found, easy to write. But Christine is a bit of a leap for me, but I like her.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's
Vicarious life, I suppose.
you have a character who can say the thing you wouldn't say and do the thing you wouldn't do, but you kind of wish in retrospect that you had, you know.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, I mean, you've already, I think, answered my next question, which was that after, a full career as a lawyer, I mean, I was wondering if there are ways in which your professional experience informs your writing.
Um, I don't really think so anymore. I left the practice of law about 12 years ago, thoroughly fed up with the whole process of it. And I really haven't, kept up even with my lawyer friends. So, I'm kind of detached from it now. I guess one thing I did learn how to do was write a statement of facts. Every brief you write as a lawyer contains a statement of facts and then argument of law. And I was always, I have to say, quite good at the statement of facts because that sounds like just a list of facts. It's not. You take the facts, you massage them so that when you do the argument, the legal argument. Oh, that's supported by that, and and it becomes an argument, in fact, if you do a skillful statement of facts. So I do think that probably fed over into my writing career, but not much else.
I can imagine it's a lot like the planning of clues and red herrings, really. I mean, you have to have all the
Exactly.
things that are going to
Yes.
manipulate
Yes.
the
It's all
reader.
in the nuance. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I was reading your blog the other night, and one of the things you mentioned is that when the writing is going well, the characters take over and tell you what happens next. And I'm curious, can you describe what the first time that moment felt like when you were writing this Christine McQuarrie character?
Well, I have difficulty falling asleep at night, and I believe that thinking about writing is writing. So often I would lie in bed and think about my characters, and in that sort of half, you're not quite asleep, they would kind of perform for me in my brain. And if I could remember the next morning, I would write that scene or that dialogue or whatever out. It seems like I was open in that space when I couldn't fall asleep, but thoughts would just come to me, that I could hear their voices.
Oh, that's
Sounds a
fantastic.
bit woo woo, and I
Well,
I
I mean, it's a hypnagogic state, I think they call it, where and athletes, are out, they say dreaming is so important to learning the next thing you're going to do as an athlete. So it makes perfect sense as an athletic writer that that your brain would be doing that for you.
yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. My brain is not so helpful at night, I will say.
Well, hopefully you get a good night's sleep.
That's also
That's
true.
better.
So why mysteries? What draws you to mysteries so often?
I did not set out to write mysteries. I set out to write World War II historical fiction inspired by a woman I met in France, a Dutch woman, who was the daughter of the Dutch consul in Kaunas in Lithuania at the beginning of World War II, who saved the lives of about 2,500 Jewish refugees by issuing them visas to far off Dutch colonies like Aruba and St. Martin. And a wonderful woman, Edith Swarzendijk. And she became a friend, and I learnt her father's story and her story too, because she was 12 years old when her father was up all night writing these visas into refugees' paperwork. Um, I wanted to write it. I was a beginning writer. I had taken one writing class with our mutual friend, Laura Kalpakian, and I had finished a manuscript. I felt so proud of myself, and I gave it to Laura to edit. And Laura, and she's quite forthright. And it came back like with red ink on every page. And I thought, oh God, and I really wasn't ready to write this story. I mean, we're talking about multiple points of view, time shifting. It was a complex project, and I wasn't able to do it. And so, somewhat discouraged, I put it away, but I was still determined to write. And that's when I thought I'll write a mystery, because I love mysteries. And that's the beginning of the Sarah McKinney series. Um, and I self-published those uh, over a period of about 6 years, and really honed my craft, writing them, attending writing conferences, working with my critique group, doing all the things I should have done probably before I put pen to paper to start with. And in about 2018, with the last of the Sarah McKinneys, I said, I'm ready now. So I went back to what has become Daughters of Riga, and completely rewrote it, revised it. I workshopped it. I thoroughly redid it. Did a lot of research, which I had skipped first time around, which you can't do with historical fiction, because even if the characters are fictional, the setting has to be correct, and the geopolitical facts have to be correct. So I did a lot more research. And then I didn't want to self-publish it. I wanted to go the traditional um, publishing route. I had finished it in about the beginning of 2020. And of course, you know what happened then, the pandemic. I sent it off to agent after agent. I think I 63 by the last count, and got the, either no response at all, or, sorry, not my cup of tea, or we've got too much on our plate, or whatever. So I went to the AWP conference. That's the, I don't know if, well, you were there. I met you there in Seattle. And I just got talking to another attendee and about her work, because she writes historical fiction. And I asked her, who's your publisher? And she told me the Wild Rose Press, but she said, don't submit it to the Wild Rose Press, submit it to my editor. And she gave me very generously the name of her editor and her email address. And I sent it off, or sent the first two chapters off, and thought, well, now I just wait 3 months. But almost within the week, I got a response from Nan, who is now my editor, saying, I'm really pushed at the moment, but I promise to get back to you within the month. And I said, yeah, right. And she did, with a contract.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
and she's been wonderful, because her field is historical fiction, but she stayed with me through the two subsequent mysteries that I've published with the Wild Rose Press. And I feel very happy there. It's a small press. They don't do any promotion for me. I'm on my own with that, and I'm not very good at it. But they take all the book design and distribution type tasks off my shoulders.
That's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
writing a novel is difficult enough. Becoming a graphic designer and a
Yeah.
publicist and all these other things on top of it is just, it's a very, very big ask. So
Yes.
I'm just curious because I'm sure that many of the people who will listen to this are also writers. That first editorial letter that you got back, I have also received similar editorial letters and 16 pages of single space commentary about something that I thought was perfect. And at the time, the first time, I thought, oh, this is terrible. I was wailing around the house, and I've since realized that's just pretty standard. you know.
Well, Nan did not give me that much, to be honest.
Oh,
She
fantastic.
she loved Daughters of Riga and just ate it up. And we cut a few things and amplified a few things. But I mean, I didn't get 16 pages. No, I just got just a really reinforcing good work. And I thought, I can
Well,
write. I mean, it's
that's a
such validation to
yeah.
find somebody that in the publishing world that likes what you do.
Well, and but also, I mean, Marian, a testament to, as you said, your hard work, learning the craft, workshopping, going over it again, doing the research. Yeah, so here's to you. I mean, it takes an enormous amount of resilience to write six novels.
Can I just
Yes,
this
yes.
this is the book of my heart. I mean, I love writing mysteries and will continue to do so, but this was the book I really wanted to write.
I
Edith,
have
my
that.
friend, has since died. I'm not in touch with her family anymore, but I hope somewhere, you know, she and her father are proud of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
They're proud of themselves, really.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so over the course of six novels, this is for, writers who are starting out. I mean, what is the most important craft lesson you would say that you've learned? I mean, what do you wish you had known when you got started?
Hmm. Well, God, thinking back, there were so many things I didn't really appreciate. And one of them is that it takes a village, that it takes other people reading your work and commenting on it. And you think, oh, they don't get it. No, that's not what I meant. But the very fact that they didn't get it is a lesson. You have to go back and look at that. And so thinking of it from the point of view of the reader, I think that's, for at least for fiction writers, I think that's so important. What does the reader need to know at this moment? And what can you hold back? And what's too much? Especially with historical fiction, I think there's a tendency to, oh, I know exactly what kind of dress she was wearing. And, well, you don't need to go into a huge amount of detail to create the period you're writing about. And certainly showing off your research is not a good idea. It just should be seamless behind the story.
Yes,
Yeah.
to
And
create
I
so.
think that I was going to say the primary lesson I think I've learned through writing is we are storytellers, concentrate on the story, um, and tell a story. I know that sounds really simple, but I think sometimes I read books and I think, oh, that's filler, that they wanted to do a 75,000 word novel, but really it's not. It's a 60,000 word novel, and why are they putting this stuff in? So I would say concentrate on the story.
Absolutely. It's so funny sometimes because I have, as a writer, sometimes a tendency to want to put in the story things that I just happen to like. And so I'm always on because the more you write, the more you read as a writer. I am a red flag goes up on my head as soon as I'm reading and I can see, oh, well, the author just put that they're reading, they're having, shrimp cocktail because the writer likes shrimp cocktail. That was just
And
advancing
this
the
is the
story.
third one they've eaten in the book. Yeah, I know what you
Exactly,
mean.
exactly. So yeah, I'm always on the lookout for that. Um, so six novels that in 10 years, that's a pretty good clip. How do you sustain yourself creatively? I mean, you've mentioned your writing group, and that sounds key. Are there any other tricks that you've learned for the new writers out there?
Not really. I mean, I don't get up at 5 a.m. to write for four uninterrupted hours or anything like that. I write when I want to write, when I feel moved to write. And I am so lucky that I don't depend on royalties for an income. And I'm retired. I don't have a 9 to 5 job that I have to go to. I'm just so blessed in that way that I can write, you know, for joy. And I think um, if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not writing. I'm stopping there. I went to a workshop with Robert Dugoni, who is a Pacific Northwest writer and a lawyer who writes mysteries, amongst other things. He's gone into historical fiction recently too. I went to a workshop with him on Whidbey Island, and by the way, he's a very attractive man, and the room was full of women writers just going gaga over him. And I think somebody asked a question about, well, what do you do about writer's block? How do you get past writer's block? And he said, look, no one is holding a gun to your head. No one is waiting for your next novel. Kept that out of your head. Don't force it. And I think that's my philosophy too.
Mhm.
uh, Write for joy, write when you want to write what you want to write, and then let the rest take care of it. Yeah.
That's fantastic advice. Speaking of writing for joy, I understand that you have a sequel with Christine McQuarrie already in the
Yeah.
works. I
Yeah.
mean, what about her story feels unfinished to you, or what can readers look forward to
Well,
the character arc?
first of all, the kind of I got a review of Lona's that said, this is a mystery and a romance. And I thought, a romance? I don't write romance. I sort of recoiled because romance to me means, bodice rippers and whatever. And then I thought, no, there's a romantic relationship there that doesn't go anywhere in Loners. And I spoiler alert, it probably won't in the sequel either. But that tension between John, the medical examiner, and Christine, the renegade detective, is sort of animating the second book as well. So I wanted to kind of continue with that. Um, and I just, as I said before, I really like her kind of defiant, rules don't apply to me kind of attitude. Um, yeah, that's not me, but I like to write about it.
Yeah, sort of the fantasy vehicle you can drive as fast as you want to.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for Marian for talking with me. Before we close, I mean, lastly, where can listeners find your books and where can they connect with you online?
Okay. Well, my books are all on Amazon, The Evil Giant, and at some independent bookstores. They're distributed by Ingram. So if you go online, if you shop at Barnes and Noble or whatever, go online and order it through them. You can get it through them. Um, and the Wild Rose Press will, if you go on their website, they will direct you to other places you can get it. All my books are also ebooks, and I find I'm reading more and more like that. And Daughters of Riga is now an audio book. Now, the Wild Rose Press doesn't do audio books, so I had to do it separate with a separate cover, actually, which is a little confusing. But that is also available on Amazon and Kobe and Spotify and various other um, Audible audiobook platforms. I'm very pleased to have done the audiobook of Daughters of Riga. It's, as I say, I did it myself, not through the publisher, so I'm sure it's a vanity project. It'll never make the money back, but I just wanted it out there in all formats.
Oh, fantastic. I will actually go look for that because it's just so wonderful to be able to multitask, to sort of read, putting that in air quotes,
Yeah.
while, you're doing tasks around the house. So, well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again when you come out with the next in the Christine McQuarrie series.
Yes, and I hope to see you in Bellingham soon.
Someday soon.
Oh, I hope so.
Yes.
You take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.